And good evening and welcome to another edition of Sports Corner. My name is Ralph Williams, along with Smokin Jim Frazier on the phone. We have an interesting night tonight. We're going to have talk. We have a lot to talk about. I'm waiting for Matt VENSEL from the Post Gazette to come on. He is going to be on, and we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins and their fall at this point. It looks like they've fallen off of a cliff, and we're going to see what happens, what Matt has to say about that. Also, later on at 9 o'clock, we have Sal TARITAGLIA coming on from Philadelphia. He does a show called Liberty Bell Smack, along with Marianne Costello and Mark Mancini. He's going to come on. We're going to talk about the Eagles and the Super Bowl. But right now, let's talk with my friend and co-host, Smokin Jim Frazier. How are you today, Smokin Jim?
Hey, Ralph, I'm doing good, man. Looking forward to the show.
As always, yes, indeed. I always look forward. This is one of my favorite nights of the week. Is Tuesday when we talk Sports Corner here. Also, don't forget about tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. The Talking Wrestling show. Smokin Jim, I have some interesting top tens for tomorrow night that you're going to like as well. And we have a lot to talk about the Elimination Chamber and a whole lot more all coming up tomorrow night. Talking Wrestling 7:30 live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter right here on our four platforms. Also, don't forget Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Once again is going to be sports and wrestling and sports talk with myself, Mark Mancini, and Smokin Jim Frazier. 347-205-9631 is the number call for you to participate and listen to the show. Also, Friday at 5 p.m., the External Bum Show with myself and Bruce Kessinger. We'll be talking about some bums in sports and then also talking some other sports categories as well. And Mark Mancini as well, producing it from Los Angeles. Okay, Smokin Jim, we have Matt VENSEL up. All right, we're going to get him up out of the waiting room. And here we go. Matt, thanks for being on the program. How are you today? Happy New Year.
I'm great. Same to you. Thanks for having me back.
All right, it's great to have you back on the show. Um, Matt, tell us about the Penguins here. What's going on with this slide? It seems like they're having all kinds of problems: goalie problems, defensive problems, special team problems. Is it the players or is it the coaching or what's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at two different things here. I mean, we can talk about some of the flaws with the roster in terms of the personnel. The bottom six has been a problem. They've had injuries on D. Tristan Jarry has been, suited up for half the games because of injuries. So those are all things they're dealing with. But I think the other part of it is just this team has just had a mystifying lack of resolve. We've seen so many mental miscues. We're talking about goals, late in periods, goals right after they score, these third period, blown leads. I mean, and I think that's probably the most frustrating thing for the players and the coaches because they can't really put a finger on why that's happening. I mean, this is the league's oldest team, very experienced, cup winning coach, a bunch of guys who won cups, and they're just making mistakes that, shouldn't be happening. And Mike Sullivan put it after the loss on Monday night, we're finding ways to lose where instead of finding ways to win. And I think that's a great way to put it. So, this team is flawed. I don't know if they have the horses to go on a deep run anyways, but, I just can't put my finger on why this team can't hold leads and why they just keep having the same mental miscues over and over and over again.
Yeah, it seems like there's some. What's going on with this goaltending here? Tristan Jarry's back. You have the Smith who sort of lays an egg every now and again, and then he'll win one or two here and there, but lose about 10. And then you got this Jaworski or whatever his name is, the third string goalie. What's going on with this goaltending?
Well, Jarry's back, as you guys saw. We'll see how long that lasts. I mean, this isn't a guy who's had a ton of injuries, his junior career, minor league career, but, he's had three significant absences this year. So is it a fluke or is it something to be worried about? But he's back now. He was really good for two periods. I mean, he's definitely a stabilizing presence for them. But obviously, he faltered in that third period of that game against the Highlanders. But having him back is huge. I mean, I think there's something like 16, 6, and 5 in the games he starts. That points percentage would put him in the top 7 or 8 teams in the league. And then as far as the backup situation goes, I mean, it is what it is with Casey DeSmith. You put it well. I mean, he's just inconsistent. I mean, he'll have a good game when there's not a lot of pressure on him, and then the next game out, he'll allow 3 goals in the third period, and they'll lose. It's just he's been unable to string games together really, and you can excuse it the past couple of years because he had his left groin repaired one off season and his right groin repaired the following off season, or maybe that was flipped around, but he was dealing with major injuries. Whereas this year, by all accounts, he's perfectly healthy, and it seems like everything's between his ears. So, I don't think it's something where we could see Dustin Tokarski overtake him as the number 2 goalie. I think it's telling that with Jari out, they started Casey 8 straight games. That's a career high for him. So, I think the goaltending is what it is right now. I mean, I think they're just hoping that Tristan will stay healthy and kind of keep their heads above water. And they hope that when they do play Casey, you can at least give him a quality start every other game.
He has that throat injury because of that puck hitting his throat. How long do you think he's going to be out, if at all? How's that looking?
I think he'll be all right. He talked after the game. That's always a good sign. He did have like a welt on his neck, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about. I'll show you on my neck. He kind of like glanced them like up here. If it was maybe a direct hit, that could have caused problems, but that's why they wear the dangler. But it just kind of glanced his neck, and it left a pretty big welt, but I don't think it's something to be worried about.
My next question to you is, what's going to happen here coming up on the trade deadline? Think the Penguins can make any moves? I know they're having salary cap issues. What's your thoughts on this, Matt?
I mean, I think they can make moves. Do they want to make moves? Should they make moves? I think those are the questions. I mean, they are hamstrung by the fact that they don't have a lot of cap space. A lot of teams are in the same boat. It's just, it's a tough situation for the Penguins to make it work. But if they wanted to give up their first round, second round pick to go after somebody or multiple players and move some salary, they could. It's just a question of one, does Hextall want to do that just generally speaking? I mean, he's shown in his 2 years here that he's willing to make some moves, but he's trying to, hang on to his top picks, trying to replenish the farm system as well as he could. So, he's going to be hesitant to give up that first round pick for sure. But the other thing is, the way this team has played really over the last 2 months, like, have they earned an upgrade? I mean, can you justify making a trade? I mean, I would argue no. I think at this point, you never say never, but I think the odds of them winning the cup are less than 1% this year. For whatever reason, they just don't have the right mix of players, and I don't think you can change that with 1 or 2 trades. So I would say the best thing for them to do is to sit the deadline out, or if you want to trade, a 4th round pick or something like that to try to bring somebody in, sure. But I don't think they should do anything major. Save that ammunition for the off season. We'll see who's the GM at that point, but take that as an opportunity to kind of cut your losses and have an eye for this off season and try again at reshaping this roster around the big 3.
You're at practice, Matt. What's the consensus there? I mean, are there any of the is it slow practice? Is it good practice? What kind of practices are we looking at here with this team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a question of practices. I mean, one, generally, Mike Sullivan runs fast-paced practices. A lot of coaches do now, but he keeps them moving. They're brisk. Every once in a while he gets mad. We'll drop some 4-letter words and kind of push them to go harder. But generally, the guys bring it in practice. They're usually in good spirits. It's just it's like they'll have a game. It'll be a tough loss. You can tell these guys are upset about it, and then they have an ability to just kind of hit the reset button and go back to practice and kind of have the intensity needed in practice, positive, upbeat attitude. So I don't think it's anything about what they're doing in practice. I mean, you could zoom out if you want to talk about their coaching, and ask, has Mike Sullivan's message kind of become stale for some of these players? And you can also question some of the tactics they use. I mean, they're still trying to play the speed game that they used to win the cup 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And you could argue that they don't have the horses to do it. So I think that's where you would quibble with Mike Sullivan, if you were going to quibble at all.
Yeah, I think the talent level here, and I also believe that they should have, and I know they wanted to bring the band back together, but I think they should have maybe either traded one or just took some of the money and and did something and let them walk, because I think by bringing the band back together, they have nothing to work with in salary cap at all, and it's horrible. My next question to you, Matt: do you think that the Fenway group will make any changes if this team doesn't make the playoffs? Do you think Mike Sullivan could get fired? Do you think Hextall and Burke could get fired at all in any of this?
Yeah, for sure. I think if they miss the playoffs or if they have just another ugly first round exit, I think we'll be looking at some changes. I mean, Fenway Sports Group, they have somebody at almost every game. I think they're more hands-on than they're being given credit for. But they're in the middle of the season. They're not going to step in now and fire the GM or anything like that. But I think they're going to let it play out. And if this season ends in, another disappointing exit or they miss the playoffs, I definitely think there's going to be changes. I mean, I thought for most of the season that Mike Sullivan was on much firmer ground. I know Fenway Sports Group thinks very highly of him. There's the Boston ties. I kind of thought if anything changed this offseason, it would be the front office. But you do wonder if Sullivan could be in jeopardy as well. But I do think if they flame out and collapse and miss the playoffs, we're probably going to be talking about a new GM search, the second one for the Penguins in a span of 3 years.
Smokin, Jim, you have any questions for Matt? Smokin, Jim?
No, I'm enjoying the conversation. Great stuff, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Also, Matt, real quick here, I wanted to wish you, and I forgot to wish Smokin' Jim here and everybody out here a very happy Fat Tuesday. So I wanted to.
I just had some chili and a Corona, so I'm celebrating.
All right. Anyway, let's get back to this for a minute here. What exactly? I hear stories that Brian Burke's not really doing his job. What is his job?
Well, I mean, it's clearly Ron Hextall's show. I mean, I know you look at the titles and it's president of hockey operations. Technically, that's a higher, job title than Ron Hextall. But this has been
Right.
Ron Hextall's show all along. He's the primary decision maker. He definitely relies on Burke's insights. But I think Burke is more of, kind of an ambassador for the team. He does a lot of community outreach. He's got a lot of relationships around the league. I know he goes out and scouts players. I did a story last summer. Their second round pick a couple of years ago, Tristan Brose. He was really struggling at the University of Minnesota. Brian Burke went out, spent some time with him. Tristan Brose told me that lunch he had with Brian Burke helped him rechange his mindset and have a pretty good second half at the University of Minnesota. He's at Denver now. But Burke's doing stuff like that behind the scenes. But in terms of the direction of the team, I mean, I think generally speaking, he and Hextall share a lot of the same philosophies, or they wouldn't have been paired together in the first place, and they wouldn't still be going. But I think it's more so he's there as a confidant. He's there for relationships. He's there to be an ambassador for the team. Burke also, has some tentacles in the business side as well. That's not his primary function, but I think people maybe misconstrue what he's supposed to be doing. I mean, obviously he has input, but this is very clearly Ron Hextall's show, and the decisions that are being made and the moves that are being made or not being made. I think that mostly falls on Hextall's shoulders.
Do you think Ron Hextall's a good GM, or do you think that he's an average one? It looks like his body of work is, he keeps, he doesn't make a quick judgment like Jim Rutherford, and everyone's like, well, why isn't he making any trades or doing anything? Because, Jim Rutherford, when he made trades, he, if you looked at him the wrong way or spit in the wrong direction or something, he was willing to trade people. What do you think of Ron Hextall?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his entire body of work going back to Philadelphia, I mean, I think it's average or below average. I mean,
right.
What he was asked to do in these two positions are very different. I mean, he was in Philly. He oversaw a rebuild. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to build through the draft. They traded some players away as opposed to bringing them in. And, his track record as a GM is kind of a mixed bag in terms of the draft picks he made in Philly. I mean, I don't know. They had one top pick That was Nolan Patrick, and his career has been partially derailed by concussions. Who knows what kind of player he would be. But other than that, I mean, they were picking a lot in the teens, and there's some good players in there, and there's some bad players. And if you look at what he's doing with the Penguins, it's a completely different job. He's trying his best to build up the farm system, but I just don't know if that's something that you can do. I don't know if you can compete to win now with the little draft assets and picks or prospects he inherited, and also try to build that out. So I think he's trying to thread a very difficult needle, and it doesn't look like he's accomplishing either end of that. I mean, the Penguins were pretty competitive 2 years ago. If anything, I think you could say that his first few months, he was largely dealing with the team that he inherited, but the Jeff Carter trade was a success. He's made some smart moves like sticking by Tristan Jarry, but you zoom out on what's happened over the last couple of years, I think it's pretty safe to say that the supporting cast here has gotten worse. So, maybe they can turn it around here. Obviously, I don't have high hopes for that happening this year, but yeah, I don't think whether he's been rebuilding or trying to build a contender, I don't think either one he's really been super impressive.
All right, let me ask you this question here. There was some rumors going around today, and there were some reports out there a little bit today that and some other media colleagues of ours have made some mention about trading Malkin. Now, Malkin likes it here. He wants to stay here. If they were to trade Malkin, could they get a lot of players for him, or do you think no, they wouldn't pull the trigger if they had to on Malkin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that happening. I mean, they've given no indications they want to trade him. He's got a full no move. He doesn't want to leave. I don't know how many suitors he had in free agency last summer. Obviously, he's had a really good year.
Right.
I think maybe he's a little bit more appealing now than he was in free agency, just because he's come out this year and shown that he still has some game left. I think his contract's pretty reasonable, but I think if you're looking out in his contract, I mean, he's got a 4-year deal here, and what's that going to look like a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now? So I don't really see him, even if somehow they wanted to trade him and he was cool with it. I just don't know how many suitors would be there. So, but I think it's a moot point. I don't think they want to trade him, and I think he would say, heck no, I don't want to leave.
Okay, Paul here says on the comment section, Matt and Smokin' Jim, the Pens have been cursed since the Lemieux group probably or refused to rightfully put the Bruno Sammartino statue outside of PPG Paints. It won't matter what they do till that happens.
Could be it.
Matt, do you think they're cursed? Because Smokin' Jim here thinks it's the Fleury curse and the Sammartino statue curse are getting the Penguins. What do you think?
It might be me. This is my 5th year covering the team, and it's been 4 straight years here of first round exits. Maybe looking at another one here. So it could just be me moving back home to cover this game.
Do you think the attendance? I hear there's like 1,000, 2,000 seats still available for each game, and they're not filling the seats. What's? Do you think it's because of play of the team, or do you think the prices, parking? What do you think?
Well, I think prices are one thing. I don't know if you've been able to get to a game recently, but it's all torn up down there for the construction of that project they're putting across the street at the old Igloo site. So it's logistically, it's a pain in the butt to get there. But I think the biggest thing, and I don't have any big problems with them bringing back Malkin and Letang and even Rust and Raquel. I mean, I think if anything, those guys are all playing well, and at least their current salaries, seem to be pretty favorable to the team. But I do think there's a staleness to the team, and I think maybe fans are just kind of bored with them. I mean, that's not to say that a lot of fans, or all fans don't, love Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and respect everything they've done. I just think like going to the arena, it's like they're seeing a movie they've seen 1,000 times, And I know attendance and the energy always picks up as the season wears on, especially after the Steelers are done. But I do suspect that's a big part of it. It's just like fans have seen this movie 1,000 times, and if you're talking about shelling out, $200 a person to go see this movie again, and you can watch it
exactly
on TV. I mean, I know what I would do.
Right.
I'd watch it on TV. So I do think that some of it as well is just like, you know, I'm not saying they need to trade everyone and bring in fresh faces, but I do think that's probably a factor. It's just that it's the same guys that we've been watching for 5, 10, or in the case of 3 guys, 16, 17, 18 years.
Matt, thanks for being on the program. I appreciate you coming on as always and enlightening us on everything on the Pens. Smokin' Jim, any final thoughts for Matt?
No, hey, enjoy your Fat Tuesday, Matt. Man, great information. Appreciate you, brother.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, Matt, for
Thank you,
being on the
guys.
show. And have yourself a great night and be safe. Thank you. That was Matt VENSEL from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who was here to talk about the Penguins and the slide. Smokin' Jim, what's your thoughts on the Penguins?
Well, I got my fingers crossed for a wild card, man. That's all we can do. That's all we can do at this point,
Oh,
brother.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know what they look like, Smokin' Jim? They look like the Bad News Bears on skates.
Woo.
Oh my. Yeah, they look like the Bad News Bears on skates. All right, let's get into some Steeler talk here real quick before Sal comes on. He's coming on at 9:00. The Steelers hired Aaron Curry as their new linebackers coach from Seattle. What do you think about this hire?
Well, as long as they still got Jerry O. I think Jerry O's a pretty good linebacker coach. So this is just an addition to what Jerry's been teaching the linebackers. Hey, man, if this guy can help us with the interior linebacker, we're set at outside linebackers. But we need a middle linebacker, and we need somebody to coach him up. So hopefully he's the man.
Doug Whaley, and I'm sure you know Doug Whaley. You probably worked with him.
Yeah.
He made a statement saying that the Steelers need to model themselves around the Chiefs. Do you think of course the Chiefs are winning, so of course you're going to need to model yourself around the Chiefs, but I don't think the Steelers could ever do that.
Well, I can see why Doug Whaley got fired by Buffalo Bills. Statements like that. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, you model yourself around your general manager and your head coach, and the Steelers don't run the Andy Reid offense, and they don't have Patty Mahomes at quarterback. So I don't know where Doug's going on that. He was in a great situation in Buffalo where they love football. They'll do anything to win, and they couldn't wait to fire him.
Oh, I know. I watched the teams, and I tell you what, he was poor. He was a bad GM up there. It was awful, man. I agree with you on that one. What do you think of Cam Sutton's contract expiring? Do you think the Steelers can re-sign him, or do you think they should let him walk?
I don't think they have a choice but to re-sign him. The Steelers done a horrible job in their secondary over the years. Cam Sutton is a guy that's not only is he experienced, he has what Coach Tomlin calls it position flexibility.
Right.
He can play almost every position in the secondary, from safety to strong safety to slot corner to cornerback. So, and he's an intelligent player.
Yeah.
And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have to re-sign him if they can get a nice number.
Oh yeah.
You can't give him a blank check. But if they can get the right number, you got to bring Cam Sutton back.
Oh, absolutely. GM Omar Khan was the only GM in the NFL to attend the HBCU Combine in New Orleans. What do you think about that?
Well, it sounds to me like there ain't gonna be no HBCU players getting drafted, because if Omar Khan is the
so that means nobody else thinks there's any good players there then if he's there.
Yeah. 2 years ago was the first year ever that no HBCU player was drafted, and so it looks like they're going to tie that record.
All right. USA Today, Smokin' Jim, has given 6 positions that the Steelers need to focus on throughout the draft. Now we'll start at number 6, defensive tackle, outside linebacker, or I'm sorry, eight positions. First, we'll start at number 8, wide receiver and running back. Number 7, cornerback. Number 6, defensive tackle. Number 5, offensive guard. Number 4, safety. Number 3, edge rusher. Number 2, offensive tackle. And they have the number one thing they think the Steelers need is an inside linebacker. What's your position on this?
Well, number one for me is because of my quarterback is wide receiver.
Right.
He wants Jordan Addison, so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I get him. He definitely would have to go before the 17th pick for me not to get Jordan Addison, and I don't think he's a top 17 pick player in this draft. So I have to disagree with them there. But yeah, middle linebackers, has to be number 2 on the list. But I would try to do what I can. I think Omar Khan time could be better spent number crunching here on the South Side because we have to get a veteran middle linebacker. I'm not real high on the other Edmund brother from Buffalo.
Yeah.
Although he's been Pro Bowl and whatnot.
Do you think if Vander Esch is available? Because I heard he might be available down there in Dallas because Michael Parsons is stealing his show. Do you take Vander Esch? Because Vander Esch was on the Steelers list to take when he was available, when they thought he'd be available in the first round, and he was not. Dallas drafted him ahead of the Steelers. He's from Boise State. He was really good there. Then he comes to the NFL and he gets in and becomes injury prone. What do you think about Vander Esch?
Well, he was my number 1 rated middle linebacker coming out of Boise. I mean, I had a Hall of Fame grade on him. That's how much talent he had. Like you said, he was injured. Matter of fact, I called my good friend Butterbean, the former boxer.
I know Butterbean. Yeah.
Butterbean's name is Vander Esch. He's a Vander Esch. I asked Butterbean, was they related? And Butterbean was talking to me while he was eating pizza on the toilet, and he said that athletes grow in his family. He didn't think that they was related, but he wouldn't be surprised because there's a lot of good athletes in his family, and so if he could pass the medicals, man, I would love for to get Vander Esch. He got the size. He can still hit. He can still play. Still got pop to his game. You got the injury standpoint.
Yes.
But yeah, I would love to bring him. I would love to bring him in.
Yeah, because I believe his contract's up and he's going to be available. So, I mean, if he's available, I think, like you, that Vander Esch might not be a bad idea. Now, let me ask you this. And, this rumor's been going around for a while. Do you think J.J. Watt will come out of retirement and come here to play for the Steelers?
Who?
J.J. Watt.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I don't think the Watt brothers are the type that say something that they didn't mean. I don't think J.J. Watt would have retired. Then again, Brady did it. I wouldn't have thought Brady would have done it. So,
right,
man, I would, just for one more year for JJ to maybe go out on the playoff team. Man, that was one of my favorite all-time players, and it just seemed like his talent and his career and everything just went overnight. And that's what I'm fearful of Aaron Donald.
Right.
Aaron Donald wasn't playing good before he got hurt. So sometimes your talent can leave you, man, overnight, man. You get old overnight. So that's what happened to JJ. But he didn't have bad numbers last year for Arizona. So maybe man, if anybody can talk him out of retirement, it's his two brothers.
Right.
You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Derek Watt's still going to be on the team, because the reason I say this is because they're talking about streamlining some money. I understand now that they're $20 million in the hole, and I don't know if you know what I mean. If that's the case, you know what I mean. If he's going to be able to stay, and you know how Mike Tomlin can be, or mediocre Mike here. He wants to if he's not going to be able to play other than special teams. I don't know if he'll be on the team, but I mean, I know he was in the offense this year a little bit with with some of the stuff that Matt Canada has up. What do you think about Matt Canada? Do you think he's going to get any better, or do you think he's going to stay the same?
Stay the same.
Yeah. All right. Sal Taritaglia is trying to get in here. I just resent the thing for him, the invite. I'm waiting for him to come back up online here, and we're going to see what's going on here. So, all right, Pirates full spring training. Everybody's there. They showed up on Monday. They have a full squad now. They asked Brian Reynolds today, is he still considering being traded? He said all he wants is a fair, right kind of contract he thinks he deserves. Do you think Brian Reynolds deserves what he's asking for?
What's he asking for? I didn't see the number.
About $124 million, I believe, over 8 years or something like that.
I think that would make him a top 20 outfielder in baseball. So, yeah, and the numbers are up there, man. He's definitely, if he's a top 20 player, that's what they're getting. Top 20 outfielders is getting those kind of numbers. So, hey, what can you do?
Oh yeah,
pay it up, or trading or get rid of him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
All right. One other thing I wanted to ask you was of course, everybody's optimistic about the Pirates with all these veterans they brought in. Are you as optimistic as they are, or do you think it's going to be another one of these silly seasons? I think it's going to be pretty decent. They got some good veterans they brought in, reasonable guys. What do you think about this?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, what do you think about this year? What do you think it's looking like for the Pirates this year with these veterans they brought in, and they're still looking for more? And they got some guys on invite or spring training invite kind of thing. What do you think they're going to do next?
Listen, the Pirates is in the Guinness Book of World Records for most losing consecutive seasons of any sports team, franchise, and any sport, including Tiddlywinks. 20 years, and I think they're on pace to tie that record or break that record and get back into the Guinness Book of World Records. They're going to lose 100 games again this year.
Okay. Yeah, well, they might. I think they're going to lose 95.
There you go.
I think they're going to lose 95. So, but anyway, so we're having some technical issues trying to get Sal up here. I don't know what's going on here. Every time I try to get him on here, we have technical problems. So anyway,
what would you do? What would you do if you were Pirate management?
If I was Pirate management, I would try to go out. If Bob Nutting was supportive, which he's not, as we know, I would go out and get every decent player I could get and try to win. I mean, really to win and mix it in with the young talent. But here's the thing, too. I heard earlier when you were on Pittsburgh Sportsline about how my good buddy, Adam Crowley, said that they should pay Ornell Cruz a lot of money. I don't know what Adam Crowley's smoking. I mean, I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid he's drinking, but I don't think they should give Ornell Cruz anything because he hasn't proved anything. Well, and you know what? For once, I agree with Nick. I mean, what in the world do these guys think out here? I know he's trying to think outside the box, and but anyway, I just think that it's crazy that he would make that kind of a statement, and that's the way I see it. as far as Ornell Cruz goes. My next question to you is, did you hear about the 15-second pitching timer? What do you think about that?
No, I didn't hear anything about that.
Well, now this year, Major League Baseball, to speed the game up, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that they are going to have a pitching timer, and it's 15 seconds. And if you go beyond the 15 seconds, you will be penalized somehow.
I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so do I. And I heard about it.
If you want to speed up the game, in my opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
For me, Roberto Clemente used to say, "For me." So for me, if you want to speed up baseball, all you have to do is get the computer to do balls and strikes. That's all you got to do. They'll speed up the game. They'll cut back on all the instant replays and all that other stuff, man. I'm big on computers, man, in baseball.
Yeah, they're talking about having robots.
I don't care what they do, man. They get it right.
Having robots.
They get it right.
Oh, yeah. Paul says, I like the pickups of G-Man Joe, Connor, Joe, and Kutch. I think they got all those guys in case Reynolds packs it in. I probably would not pay Reynolds until he puts in one more good year. I agree with Paul on that. I really do. He still has 3 years of his contract left. So technically the Pirates still have control of his contract. So he can't really go anywhere.
Not really. Not really, because even though they have control over the contract, you get killed in arbitration. You never wanted to go to an arbitrator, man, because the salaries in baseball is through the roof. So you want to pay a guy a year earlier. Look what they did with McCutchen. They did a great thing. He took hometown discount, but they always paid him, and he was productive. Don't get me wrong, he was productive, but they always paid him a year before it would have been too outrageous. So that's what you have to do. I mean, you have the scouts down there. You see these guys every day, bro. You're training them. You see their work ethic. You see what they do in the off season. They should know whether or not this guy's on the verge of being a superstar, being good.
Okay, great.
And they have no clue, and that's one of their major problems is they don't have a clue. But the guys go to other teams and they become superstars.
Oh yeah. Okay, I have Sal TARITAGLIA with me on the phone, or I'm sorry, not on the phone. Sal, are you there? Sal, come on up. I see a blank screen here. No Sal. Come on, Sal. All right, we'll see if we can get Sal back on here. I see no picture and no sound. Okay. Sal, get his things together here. We'll get him up here eventually. Pitt basketball, Smokin' Jim. Overall record 19-8. They have an opportunity. They play Georgia Tech tonight. And they have an opportunity to win 20 games. They've been on a little bit of a slump.
Do you know how much money I have on Pitt tonight?
How much?
It came down to betting on Toledo or Pitt. And I said, I'll bet on Pitt. For the first time all season, I only bet on Pitt once. I won with Michigan earlier in the year when Pitt wasn't playing well. But
right.
When Pitt got hot, I stayed away from Pitt. I said, tonight, I'll bet Pitt will blow Georgia Tech out. Toledo is killing Akron. And Pitt is struggling the last time I looked, man, with Georgia Tech. So I'm going to have to move in with you, brother.
There you go.
Pitt don't win tonight, but
okay, we have Sal TARITAGLIA up here from Liberty Bell Smack. To Sal, it's great to have you. You got your we got all this technical stuff worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm on the phone. For some reason, the laptop didn't connect me. I don't know. I'm there. It looks like I'm waiting to get in. But in any event, as long as we can discuss things, I'm satisfied. Congratulations on your new radio show, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Well, I haven't gotten it started yet. I'm going out there looking for sponsors. Me and Sandy's helped me out a little bit. So, we're going out looking for some sponsors. So,
Once I used to tease my kids, I said when they interviewed me before I got a show about my book, I said, yeah, once I got my foot in the door, they can't shut it.
That's right. Well, that's what I wanted, Sal. I wanted radio. I want to get on the radio because I want to prove to these media types in this town that I can compete with them just like everybody else.
That's right.
And so that's one reason I'm doing it as well. I have a new co-host here, Sal, since the last time we talked, Smokin Jim Frazier. Smokin Jim, Sal TARITAGLIA from Liberty Bell Smack.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Hey, Sal, I'm honored to have you on, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, Sal, let's talk about the Philly Eagles here for a minute.
Sure.
What do you think the Eagles can do now since they lost their coordinators? What do you think Nick Sirianni can do now?
Well, they're looking at I'm glad Gannon's gone because the defense was way too passive. They're interviewing former Wisconsin defensive coordinator Jim Leonard. He was
I know Jim Leonard.
He had the top 5 defense in the NCAA 4 different seasons. So other than that, I haven't heard much about him. With respect to losing our offensive coordinator, Steichen, he's a head coach in Indy, just like Gannon wound up in Arizona. Right. Can Hurts survive yet another system change? And history says that he can, as he has not had consecutive seasons with the same system or OC in high school, college, or the pros until this year. So just imagine if he had a third year unencumbered with learning a new playbook. So I hope they're talking about coming from within for that position. But, it's still early, so we don't know yet. With respect to Hurts, you got to sign him to this long-term deal extension because you got 2 first rounders, so you have to replenish the defense. You got 6 free agents, 3 defensive linemen, Hargrove, Cox, Graham. There's your record for all them sacks, right? there they go.
Right.
2 defensive backs, Epps and C.J. Johnson, and a linebacker, T.J. Edwards. So if you can get some replenishment with your draft, it's less money and it's an immediate impact. Otherwise, how are you going to pay Hurts if you don't have any weapons? So I see it as a challenge. It's hard to repeat regardless, but with these other obstacles to climb, but then again, the guy like Hurts, it strengthens his resolve. It just seems like every time life wants a crap on him, he turns it into like a mountain of gold,
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're saying on that.
Sure.
What's what was your thoughts on the Super Bowl here? And I know Philly lost in this game. What do you think? Do you think Sirianni got out-coached by Reed in the second half?
Well, it's hard to say, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room first. Okay. The Bradbury holding call cost them their last timeouts and at least a minute and a half on the clock.
Right.
I think Hurts would have become a superstar if he had that opportunity. I really do. But anyway, was it a hold? Sure. But he made the same play at 13 minutes in the second quarter, and there was no flag.
Right.
So, like umps in baseball, you want consistency with the refs too. Good, bad, or indifferent. Doesn't matter. You want the same calls in the 9th inning that were called in the 1st inning. Otherwise, you have no reference point. You don't know how to react,
right.
Or act, I should say. So I think, he admitted it. He was the bigger man, but it didn't have to be. But call it in the second quarter, too. Maybe he doesn't make that play late, Right. But again, that being said, we wouldn't even be having this discussion without the scoop and score. You can't make a major mistake in a Super Bowl, and he almost still erased it. He came right back out in this possession, running, throwing, everything. He went right down, and they scored again. I said, wow, if anybody has a chance to erase a mistake, it's him. But it didn't come to bear, and like I said, the same thing happened in 2004 when we lost to the Pats. McNabb went right down the field first possession, threw an interception at the goal line. There were still 7 minutes left in the first quarter. Whole game to play. But you don't make a mistake in the big game because it's going to bite you in the ass sooner or later. And they lost by 3 points, so do the math. Without the scoop and score, and I'm not blaming Hurts. It's a shame because the play before, it was a 3rd and 1. And that our offensive line pushed the Chiefs around all day. It's a shame. We had won the game. They might have been all the MVP, the whole line, They were just shoveling them. It was amazing how they were just moving earth, moving mountains. So they get the first down, 3rd and 1, but there's a flag. So now it's 3rd and 5. That play may not have ever happened if they didn't have the flag.
Right.
So, I don't think Sirianni got out-coached because the defense didn't show up in the second half. But again, do the math with the extra touchdown and no touchdown for KC. That's a 14-point swing. Well, okay, let's assume they don't score. And they were running.
Right.
Every time they touched the ball, they scored, just like KC in the second half. So let's assume they don't score. It's still a 7-point differential. At best, KC ties it at the end. So, like I said, I'm not blaming him, and the kid's amazing. But you can't make a huge mistake in a Super Bowl.
No, you cannot. No, you make mistakes and beat yourself, Sal. We've seen that before.
Sure.
And when you do that, you're going to wind up losing.
Right.
There's no doubt about that.
Exactly.
And I think Philly beat themselves a little bit. And I also was not happy with some of the offensive play calling. I think they should have ran the ball a little bit more. You know what I mean? It was too many pass plays, too much Jalen Hurts. I think they should have ran the ball a little bit more.
Obviously, rested on their laurels in the second half, I think. And,
right.
But, there's a lot of things you can point at. But, again, there's no shame in the way they lost. They were valiant, and it was a great game to watch, regardless.
Of the 2 coordinators that both got head coaching jobs, which one do you think is going to succeed the best?
It's hard to say because they've both been successful, even though I'm a little pissed at Gannon right now because it was way too passive. I don't know if he can, he had this amazing machine here, and I guess he figured, well, it's already amazing, so don't fix it if it's not broke. But, I think that they both have an equal chance, because Steichen, he took his foot off the pedal a number of times too. People were always like, until they got into this run thing, and they were like an amazing record-setting team. They would have Hurts throw like 45 times, and it was a recipe for disaster, especially as he was still learning.
Right.
But, I think they both have the equal chance to succeed, and I wish them well. But Gannon specifically has to be more aggressive on the defense.
Okay. Yeah. I have a question for you here.
Sure.
In regards to Philly, what do you think they're looking at in the draft? Do you think any of their free agents will be coming back? What's going on?
Well, I'm not sure which ones will be coming back, but I'm sure they're going to sign some of these guys. They're not going to let them all go. It's a numbers game at this point. And I haven't really looked at the draft when they start with the 1.0 and the 2.0. There's a million things can happen between now and then. So I haven't really studied it. I'm sure I could come up with some prognostications, but no, I haven't really looked at it because I didn't find out until a couple of days ago. I was still, hungover from it, the disappointing loss. And I just found out a couple of days ago that they had 6 free agents, and I think there's more. They added somebody else, and Miles Sanders, also a free agent. So they got to come up with some money to sign Hurts. I believe Hurts would restructure because I think he's all about the chemistry and the family. And this is what makes this team great, the way they feel and how the fans relate to them. And they've all said it, coming to play in Philly for Philly is way different than when you just visit the city as an opponent. So
tell me about Andy Rydell. We have him here. Tell me about him a little bit. Do you think he can make a difference with the Steelers?
I'm not familiar. Refresh me.
He was the assistant GM with Philly. I was told that he was the little bit of the mastermind of some of the players. And now he's here, Andy Rydell.
And he's the OC. He's the new OC.
Yeah, he's the assistant GM here.
When was he here in Philly again? So we'll grade him as to who he brought.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. Like I said, he's here now. And a lot of people were saying it was a good pickup for the Steelers, Andy Rydell. And also he's from this area as well, originally. And I think that some of what he's done in Philly, I think he can do here. It's all a matter of getting the job done with what he needs to do.
Well,
what do you?
What was the circumstance? I mean, do you remember what years about he was here? And the circumstances.
Yeah, he was here. He was there for about 5 years, I think, or 4 years, or something like that, before he came to the Steelers.
You remember any of his draft picks?
Yeah, I know Jalen Hurts, all these guys here that he brought in.
Well,
They say a lot of it was him. So,
he has a great track record then, and he's with a great organization. I mean, when you guys are down, you're still good. You can
right.
still spoil people's parties. A lot of teams when they're down, that's it. Like look at Detroit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's with a great organization, and if he had anything to do with bringing Hurts, and anybody that toiled under Roseman, it has to rub off. The guy's a wizard.
Right. Tell me a little bit about what's your thoughts this year on who do you think is going to be the sleeper teams that are going to come up into the playoffs this year? I think Detroit's going to be one of them.
Absolutely, DeLon. I love Dan Campbell, and he's got every guys feeding into the program. And I said it early when they weren't winning because they weren't losing by much. They were smacking the shit out of teams. And when he came out with that bite the knee thing, I was like, yeah, listen to this guy. I love him. So I think they'll definitely, and they won't be such a sleeper, really, because of the way they came on. They missed the post by this much,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But,
Smokin' Jim, you have any questions for Sal?
No, I'm enjoying it, man. Sal's giving us some great information. I appreciate that, Sal. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much. Thank you.
Yeah. And now, one other thing I wanted to ask you, Sal, how's everything with Liberty Bell Smack? I haven't been able to participate in some of the shows because I've been busy with my stuff.
We're doing well.
Going?
We're doing well. Last week we had Ed Vosberg on.
I saw that.
Yeah, Florida Marlins champion. He's the only guy that had won the Little League World Series, College World Series, and the Major League World Series. He's only one of three guys to do it, to be in them, but he's the only one that won it. The other two were who was the catcher for Boston? Veritek.
Okay.
And that little pest from the Mets. He's a giant now. Michael Conforto. Yeah, they were in them, but they didn't win them. Yeah, he's the only one. That's a great story. And then next week we're going to have another show. I think we have Pedro Rivera from KL, whatever the station thing is.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, KTLA, Pedro Rivera. So I'm boning up on all the LA crap, LeBron and all that stuff. But
I want to ask you this question: what do you think of this 15-second baseball pitching
clock? I think Manfred had a chance to correct his faults, okay? Because he's an idiot. He's got to go. He did the right thing with the shift, and then didn't do the right thing with anything. I'm hoping they're still saying it's only practice in spring training that they decide against it. These big bases, I mean, if they ain't broke, don't fix it. This is my interpretation of what he's trying to do. He is trying to appease the casual fan that may watch 2, maybe 3 games a year at the expense of the lifelong fan that's, that spends all the money. And
right.
I mean, come on, man, what's wrong with him? He's got to go. He's got to go.
Well, I heard this commissioner's nothing but a money guy. He knows nothing about baseball, I'm told. And, so he needs to go. I believe that he's been ruining Major League Baseball for a long time, and it's just sad.
Right. He's a smack that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, they interviewed a couple of our pitchers from the Pirates today, and they were not real happy about it. We have Rich Hill from Boston, and he's played for a couple other teams, 45-year-old Rich Hill.
Listen to this scenario. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No. And he said he wasn't very pleased with this 15-second clock.
Oh, here's a worst case scenario. Game 7, World Series. Bases are loaded, tie game. And this comes into play. How the frig are you going to end the World Championship on that stupid call that shouldn't even exist? Come on, man. Come on. Oh, my God.
Sal, thanks for being on tonight. I appreciate it.
Hey, it was my pleasure.
Sorry we had technical problems. Couldn't get you on at 9 o'clock. But
that's fine.
It's better late than never. Oh, by the way, I wanted to talk with you later on sometime. We'll talk. I wanted to have you on the one-on-one show again, interview you again on the one-on-one show.
Sure,
so,
just let me know.
All right. Have a great day, Sal. Thank you.
You as well. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one. Be safe. Say hi to Mary Ann for me.
Yes.
All
Nice
right.
to meet you, Jim.
Thank you. All right. That was Sal TARITAGLIA from Philly talking about the Eagles. Smokin' Jim, what's your thoughts on all this?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. like we talked about earlier, the Eagles can't re-sign everybody. As soon as they give Jalen Hurts his contract, they're going to have to let a bunch of players go. Pittsburgh Steelers should be in front of that line, man. There's going to be some good players available, man. There's going to be a salary cap casualty of Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. I think they need to bring back Javon Hargrove. I think it would be a great addition. We talked about this before, and him, if they bring back Okunjobi and Hayward on that line, look out. Steelers are, the defense can be pretty good this year with that happening. Okay, let's look at some other NFL news here. I have a bunch of stuff here. Las Vegas Raiders have fired their defensive assistant Frank Oakham. Indy Colts new coach Shane Steichen has hired Giants running back coach. Okay, here we go. Dean Reesmith as their offensive assistant. New York Giants head coach Brian DeBoer has hired his son Christian DeBoer to work with the offense. There you go, Smokin' Jim. We could get an assistant to the assistant at the movie theater. Let me ask you this, and I should have asked you this earlier. What's your thoughts if they were to bring in Byron Leftwich to be an assistant under Canada? What do you think?
I think it would be great. The more, experienced eyes that you have. I mean, Leftwich played in this league. He coached in this league. He played quarterback in this league. He was offensive coordinator. So it would almost be like having Brian Flores in. You know what I mean?
Right.
The eye in the sky, somebody to see things a little bit differently can do nothing but help. As long as everybody understands their role and they're pulling the wagon all in the same direction, man. I like it.
Okay, here we go. Former KC offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy is the new OC at the Commanders. What do you think?
A fool is born every minute. I think he'll be fired. I think he'll be fired within 2 years. I don't think Eric Bieniemy can coach his way out of a wet paper bag. I think he'll be exposed. I mean, how do you leave Patty Mahomes and Andy Reid and the fans of the Kansas City Chiefs? To go somewhere where they have no offense, they have no quarterback, and their owner is getting ready to getting ready to snatch his ownership from him. So
yeah, exactly.
And that's going to be the only parade you're going to see for the Commanders in the next 2 years is when they get rid of Snyder.
Yeah, you know what, Smokin' Jim, I do agree with you on the Eric Bieniemy thing. I think he made a bad decision. I think he got Charlie Batch said this. Why should I be a starting quarterback and beat myself up when I can stand on the sideline, hold a clipboard, and make $1 million? Okay, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would stay with Andy Reid. Less work I have to do. Let him run his offense or whatever. I just give my little bit of opinion and take my $5 million and stay. But instead, he left, and now Matt Nagy is going to be their new offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy is a good offensive mind. He was a horrible head coach, a bum as a coach. Okay, but he was he's a good offensive assistant. He's good with the quarterback. Yeah. Let's see what Matt Nagy does. I think it was a good hire as far as that goes. But I think Bieniemy, and I agree with you, Smokin' Jim, made a mistake. I think he's trying to become a head coach, and I told you, many sources of mine said he's a bad interview. So, I mean, if he's a bad interview, with the head coaching position, and, he's never really had a chance to really coach because he's under Andy Reid. And Andy Reid, is in charge of the offense no matter what. So, anyway, Casey.
I mean, you said it best, Ralph. You always say things. You always break things down like nobody else.
I appreciate that.
You're making $4 or $5 million a year, man. You know what I mean? Stay there until you get a head coaching job, or stay there for as long as you can. you're in a winning position.
Exactly. Right. Yes. He made a bad decision for himself. I wouldn't have left that job. I would have stayed.
No. For the Commanders, the worst team in their division.
Yeah.
With a rookie quarterback, basically. Come on, man.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
There's no job security there for Ron Rivera. I heard this year he's going to be on eggshells. So, I mean, Ron Rivera has to win with the enemy. And if he doesn't, and you're right, they don't have a quarterback here. He just got rid of Carson Wentz. So I don't know who they have a quarterback there.
Sam Howell. From, the rookie from
from North Carolina. Yeah. Yeah.
That's who's going to start.
Sam Howell. Yeah. Exactly.
That's crazy.
You know what? He was a good quarterback in North Carolina. I was one of the people who he's a
gritty.
tough, gritty quarterback. Yes, he is. I watched him many times, not just against Pitt, but a few of the other ACC games. I tell you what, that guy, he's like Captain Comeback. He's a gritty, physical quarterback. And I think he'll do okay with them, but I don't know about the enemy. I just don't know,
But every team in that division got a good defense. Philadelphia, Dallas, and the Giants.
Oh, the Giants have a real good defense.
You got an inexperienced quarterback going in there that's trying to learn the game, man. I think it's going to be one and done. I think Rivera is going to be out, and I think the enemy is going to be out after 1 year.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case, too. Okay, Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon has hired Nick, not Kalis, but Nick Rallis as his defensive coordinator. All right. Carolina Panthers have hired Todd Wash as their defensive line coach. Seattle has hired, guess who Seattle just hired today as their quarterbacks coach, Smokin' Jim? Greg Olson.
Really?
Yes, they hired him as their quarterback coach. Yeah, so he's going to be leaving the booth and going to the Seattle Seahawks.
The coach tight end, coach quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A tight end.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he's going to coach quarterbacks at Seattle. So,
wow.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers hired George Edwards as their outside linebackers coach. And I got one for you here, Smokin' Jim. You ready? Guess who's going to be working as an offensive assistant with Nick Saban in Alabama?
Michael Irvin.
No. I'll give you a hint. He won a Super Bowl with Bill Cowher, and he was one of Bill Cowher's assistants.
I don't know.
Ken Wisenhunt.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. He's been hired as chief offensive assistant. Chief offensive assistant. Yes.
Woo.
Oh, and by the way, former baseball announcer Tim McGarver died this week, 81 years old. So sad to hear about that. He was a great announcer.
He was good. Yeah, he was really good.
All right,
Wasn't that the one Deion Sanders poured water on?
Yes. Oh my. Okay, now I have something interesting for you. Did you watch any of the XFL games this weekend?
No, sir.
Okay, Hines Ward, he coaches San Antonio. I watched the game. You know who he coaches like?
Who?
Mediocre Mike. That's
Did
why.
He lose?
Yeah, that's why he lost. Bad clock management, horrible decision making. He had an opportunity with a 4th and 1 on the 20-yard line, and he goes and tries to kick a field goal, and his kicker can't kick worth a darn, and they end up losing 18-15 to Beckett's team. He coaches the Arlington team in Texas.
Wow.
And then Rod Woodson lost also. The Vegas Vipers, they lost as well. So it was a bad day for former Steelers in their head coaching debuts. So, all right. Let me go into some former Steeler players who are coaches and also former Steeler players that are in the XFL. Okay. Assistant. Okay, here. Jay and Jonathan Hayes one's an offensive assistant, one's a defensive assistant with the Arlington, Texas team. Let's see here. Who else we got? Ray Sherman Jr., Darren Perry, both Las Vegas. They coach for Vegas under Rod Woodson. Darren Perry, Ray Sherman. So.
Wow, I'm surprised Darren Perry's not still. He's a pretty good NFL assistant coach, defensive back coach. I'm surprised.
Yep. Yes.
He got put out of there. Wow.
And here's the name: San Antonio, working under Hines Ward. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Joey Porter's the linebackers coach.
Wow.
Jim Haslett, who's the head coach at Seattle, former Steeler assistant. And guess who his defensive coordinator is? Ron Zook. Remember Ron Zook?
Really?
Yeah, Ron Zook's his defensive coordinator. Yes.
Wow.
And then you have, well, of course, we talked about Hines Ward and Rod Woodson. Now, you ready for this one? The offensive coordinator for St. Louis, and St. Louis has got football back in their city, is Bruce Gradkowski.
Really?
Yes, he's the offensive coordinator for St. Louis.
Well, he knows the game for sure.
Yeah, and he was
great to mind.
Yeah, he was the one that executed the comeback for St. Louis to win. I mean, they were down, and I thought they were going to get their butts handed to them against Vegas, and they came back.
I know he coaches. As of last year, he was coaching a high school team in Cincinnati, I believe.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. All right, here's another one. You ready for this? And he's getting high down there too in Arlington, Texas. Martavius Bryant. He's a wide receiver for
them. he had Hall of Fame talent, I tell you that.
Yep. Blew it, smoking pot. All right, San Antonio. You ready for this one? Kalen Balaj. Yeah. Remember him? Kalen Balaj, the running back. He plays for San Antonio. Yeah. All right, here's another one. St. Louis. This guy disappointed me. I thought he was going to do well because I watched him down in he was with, I think, North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina. Mateo Durant. He's playing with the St. Louis team. He's a running back. He was with the Steelers last year as an undrafted free agent. Remember? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently he had injuries and some other stuff. And you ready for the next one? Linebacker for Seattle. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Tuzar Skipper.
Wow. Wow.
Tuzar Skipper, man.
All your favorites, man.
I got a few more before we wrap it up here. You ready? Max Borghi. Yeah. He was a brief running back with the team this year. He's on with Houston. All right. Now, here's a bum, and I'm going to feature him on Friday on the External Bum podcast on Blog Talk Radio. You ready? Quarterback for Orlando, Paxton Lynch.
Wow.
And then wide receiver for Orlando. You ready? Eli Rogers. Eli Rogers.
Oh, that's our guy. He's still around, huh?
Yeah, he's still around. Orlando. Linebacker.
Well, I remember Eli. It's either last year or the year before. Eli Rogers was playing in one of the leagues, either I guess the XFL or the USFL one.
He was playing the Canadian. No, USFL. I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, I forget USFL, what team he was with, though. Yeah.
And he didn't go to his mom's funeral because he had a game.
Yeah. 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 All right. Next, T. Gray Scales, linebacker. We had him here. He's with Orlando. Okay, now Ricky Prohl is coaching with St. Louis, and guess what? So is his son. His son's playing for his son, Ricky Prohl Jr., is playing for St. Louis, and his dad is coaching.
Wow, that's what's up.
Oh yeah, and guess who else is with St. Louis?
Who?
Former Brown Josh Gordon. Oh yeah, and then former Pitt player in the XFL, Ben DiNucci. So there you are.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right, Ben's still hanging in there.
Yeah, Ben DiNucci. He's in the XFL too. So that's my list of everybody that's associated with the Steelers at one time or a local guy. or something that's involved in the XFL. And I watched the games this week, and I thought they were pretty decent. I really did. I mean, I thought they were okay. It was nice to see The Rock. I haven't seen him for a while, so he was at
Oh, yeah,
some of
that's
the
right.
games.
The Rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he owns it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, here's an update for you.
Go ahead.
Georgia Tech 68, Pitt 76. So Pitt keeps the streak alive. They got their first 20-game winning season since 2016. So
Yeah, Jamie
and that's the
Dixon was the
last time they
coach.
made. Yeah, that's the last time they made the March Madness. So congratulations, Pitt.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations to the Pitt Panthers. All right, before we go, Paul says it was a lot of fun seeing all those Pittsburgh connections watching the XFL this weekend. And how about a weekly XFL show, Ralph? You know what? Maybe I thought about that, Paul. And thank you for the suggestion. Thank you for watching. You know what? You think the same as I do because I was thinking about that, and I might just do that. So have a weekly show about the XFL. I just might do that. That sounds like a good idea. Another show to add to my repertoire here with RW Media. So don't forget next Tuesday we'll be back at 8:30 p.m. next week. We'll have some guests on again. I'm working on a few good guests for next Tuesday. 8:30 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Go out, call your friend, call your cousin, get the popcorn, get the sodas ready, because guess what? We'll be back next Tuesday. And don't forget tomorrow night as well, Wednesday night, every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. right here on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Talking wrestling, our 2 top 10s. Where are they now? And I have some good top 10s for you, Smokin' Jim, you're going to like for tomorrow night. And also, don't forget 10:30 tomorrow night, myself, Mark Mancini, Peter Blake down in Tampa on the Sports Web show. So don't forget to tune into that, and that'll be on YouTube and Facebook. Then Thursday night, 7:30 p.m., Blog Talk Radio, myself, Smokin' Jim Frazier, Mark Mancini, Wrestling Sports Talk. We talk wrestling, we talk sports, we talk about wrestling. Thursday night, Smokin' Jim, we're going to have a segment now on the Thursday night wrestling show, Wrestling Bums. Okay? We're going to come up with bums every week that were in wrestling at one time or another, or are still in wrestling that are bums.
Wow.
All right? So we're going to come up with a bum segment there of bums. That's on Thursday night, 347-205-9631 for you to listen. And we'll be having all of our steady listeners on there. We hit over 600 last week and the last couple of weeks. Friday evening, 5 p.m., don't forget the External Bum podcast. We talk sports and also talk about bums in sports. And I have another list of some bums as well. One of them being Paxton Lynch. So there you go. There's a bum. He was in the USFL last year, didn't do nothing for the Michigan Panthers. He has done nothing. He is nothing. So there you go. As far as Paxton Lynch goes, there's a waste of talent. He was the number 1 pick for the Denver Broncos. He didn't do a damn thing in the NFL. Nothing at all. He was horrible. And then the Steelers took him, and he said he couldn't understand Randy Fichtner's offense. Really? You couldn't understand Think and Dink? Oh, that's all Randy Fichtner ever called was Think and Dink. That was it.
That's true.
His offense was so boring. It puts you to sleep. So But anyway, Smokin' Jim, thank you once again for another great show. It's a pleasure always having you on with me every single Tuesday night at 8:30. I'm blessed to have a guy with the knowledge like you. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
No, great show, man. I tell you what, I don't know how you pack it all in, but you do. You get it in, man. Great job.
I do my due diligence, man. I do it. It takes a lot of work, and to put on a 1-hour show. But you know what? I do it, and I do it right, and I do it, and it's entertaining, and people like it. So that's all. That's the best of it. You know what? Mickey Rourke said in the movie The Wrestler: "As long as they like it, you're good." So there you go. Oh, do you know that The Wrestler was rated the number 1 wrestling movie in the entire in all of wrestling, of all the wrestling movies? It was rated number 1.
When was that?
I read a report this week about it. They rated it number 1.
When did it come out?
The report came out yesterday.
I mean, this movie's new.
No, this movie is in 2009. It has Mickey Rourke in it. It's called The Wrestler. I think it was one of his best acting jobs. It's a good movie. You should watch it. It's about an aging wrestler. It's about what happens to you when you become an aging wrestler and you used to be big time, and then all of a sudden now you're wrestling in gyms and independent things. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then also to check Beyond the Mat. That's a really good movie. That's a good wrestling movie. That's like kind of like a documentary. It has Jake the Snake Roberts in it. It has Mick Foley. Tells you about the wrestling business a little bit. Goes into a little bit of detail about the wrestling business. That's a pretty good movie. Paige, she put a movie out about how she used to come up through the wrestling world. Her family helped her out. That's a pretty good one as well. Those are the three that I can think of, and there's a few more. Hulk Hogan was in a couple of them, and But yeah, The Wrestler was rated number 1, the number 1 movie of all wrestling movies. So there you go. So, but don't forget, tomorrow night we have our Where Are They Now? Where do you see who I have in mind? It's a female wrestler this week, Smokin' Jim. Another female.
Wow. Okay.
That's all. That's the only hint I'm going to give you because I want everybody to tune in tomorrow night.
Great.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow night, Smokin' Jim. Thanks again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to get your popcorn and your soda pops ready for tomorrow night because we're going to be back at 7:30 for Talking Wrestling. I am Ralph Williams for Smokin' Jim Frazier. Have a good one and be safe.